Joseph Dhafana, Mossy Wines, a great friend and an incredible ambassador for South African wine and for Zimbabwe. Welcome back to the Under the Influence podcast. We've spent a lot of time together over the years, quite a bit of time in front of the camera with our wine advisor course. It is such an honor to have you back. We've both been running around Africa and it's been a bit crazy. We haven't seen much of each other. So first of all, it's just so good to see you. You're looking well. You're looking strong. You're looking fit. Today we under the influence of storytelling. And I think, we started this journey where we've been educating waiters, bartenders, sommeliers in Africa. And you've been an incredible part of that, both face-to-face as well as through the Wine Advisor course. And I'm just fascinated by this concept of storytelling. You've created an incredible brand that is an extension of who you are, of your story. But storytelling in hospitality starts with us in front of a table. And it's a pretty scary place to be. I remember starting out where you feel like you don't have the knowledge, you don't have the words. You've got these individuals looking up at you like, okay, now what? How did you break through from maybe just presenting a menu or telling guests about the flavor of a wine to actually being able to share a couple of stories about wine?
Well, what an intro, by the way. Thank you so much. I mean, it's been really a while without seeing each other. Thanks for having me. I mean, it takes really a lot for one to be able to just present a bottle of wine in front of a guest, because you're going to have confidence. You're going to have to have also, you're going to have to be passionate, I must say. And also, you should actually plant that seed of you should be hungry for success. So most people really drop the ball when they think that they are there. You can never be there in this industry. I mean, there's no way you can say, I've managed now to reach the destination, but I'm still traveling. It's a journey, you know what I mean? So, excuse me. So yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to test quite a lot of wine, really, and master every single thing which you test. Drink to know, not just to enjoy, because we tend also to, at some point, we tend to just drink the good wines and forgetting those ones. There's no bad wine, by the way, but then sometimes the wine may not be really great for your palate. That's what is perceived as if it's not good. But there's someone somewhere in this world we can actually enjoy that wine. So you have to drink from lifestyle, which we call entry level, medium range, all the way to ultra premium wines.
Okay.
Because most of the ultra premium wines, not everyone can actually afford to drink. I can't afford to drink ultra premium wines every day. You know what I mean? So you really have to read extensively. One has to read extensively. And also trying to dig into stories. Stories, like I always say, wine is a bottled story. It's more like doing half job. If I just open a bottle of wine, make you taste, drink it without telling a story behind the label, you know what I mean? So you're gonna have to know something about that wine. That's more than just telling the flavors and aromas.
Yeah, that's such a good point, because I think one thing that wine training I think can get wrong is it ends up being very technically focused on tasting, and that's obviously very important because the flavor, the texture, the aroma, that's something you want to convey to guests. You want to have intimate knowledge of yourself, but we effectively taste differently. Every individual's got different abilities and different senses to taste and smell, and I think that ultimate emotional connection with a product is through that storytelling. And I remember great advice when I was first becoming a waiter. Super arrogant, high ego, because I was making wine with my dad in the cellar. So I had knowledge of vineyards and I had knowledge of winemaking techniques.
So more viti and vini.
Yeah, and then I became very obsessed with just talking to guests about that, like, you know, the winemaking, the barrels, the acidity, you know, and he actually came up to me, the manager of the restaurant came up to me after service and said, "Oh, nobody really cares about that." I mean, they are like wine geeks, like love that level of detail, but most people who come through a restaurant environment, they want to understand the story, the people and the place. They said the best thing you can do is get in your car on your day off on a Monday and go and visit wine farms. And so that's what I did. And then suddenly you like can talk about soil, but from the perspective of Ibn Sadi or Gary Jordan, or you can talk about Pinot Noir from the perspective of Hamilton Russell, or Chenin Blanc from the perspective of Ken Forrester. How did that process unfold for you? You know, because you started out effectively as a bartender, waiter in the Swartland. What were the first kind of interactions and stories that you would share with guests?
Well, like you mentioned, I mean, people have, or we do have different, like we test differently. Like we hear, we see, we test differently. We humans, right? So I would like to think that, I mean, you can't just present a bottle or tell a story about wine in the same sentence as like explaining or describing the flavors and aromas, because I know for a fact that they are what you call varietal typicity, which means Sauvignon Blanc should really bring green bell pepper, no matter where it's coming from.
True.
But then people knows that, like it's very like that's really basic. You know what I mean? It's rudimentary in a way. So you can't just go and tell people stuff which they know. So you're gonna have to know the terroir, know the soil type. Why did Madanye chose to settle in Swartland when he was making wine in Tubach for Tubach Mountain Vineyards? Why did Ibn Sadi chose to actually make his wine in Swartland when he was at Spice Road? Why did now Gary Jordan is actually, I think, is making wine in England or something like that in Sussex, if I'm not mistaken, and not leaving per se, but branching from Stellenbosch? All those things. Why is 9 yards called 9 yards? What's so special about it? What's Villafranche? All these things are going to have to be known, because most people don't even know that Villafranche is a type of soil. They think that it's just wine. But there's more to actually tell behind the wine or around the wine. So you're going to have to dig deep and actually sell the wine for what it is. The inside, which is the intestines of the whole thing, or the marrow of the whole meal, which is the wine itself, the person's going to actually find out for himself or herself, So, start really by mentioning Joseph Dhafana, Zimbabwe, but based in South Africa, of course, making wine in Swartland, but started as a gardener. He only have 2 wines, which he's actually running at the moment, but he once made Sauvignon Blanc. He's also making maybe red blend with other 2 partners. But this is a story, what I mean? It doesn't have to be long, because people don't want to hear your like 3, 4, 5 minutes worth of like real story. So you're going to have to make sure that you summarize it. You cut straight the chase. Yeah. You sell like the cream of the story.
Yeah, I love that. And I think you mentioned like the word why quite a bit. And I think that is the absolute key question. Having young children, you hear why a lot. Why? And the why behind the what is where the magic is, because, the what is, this is a Syrah, it comes from granitic soils, it's got these flavors, but the why is, the Molyneux sought out these soil types because of their experience. Your journey started with, building up from working in hospitality, being passionate about wine, and the ultimate expression of that was to create your own wine. And I think that would be big advice that I would give learners out there, is get the foundations of the what right. So the what is very much around varietal typicity, understanding like how wine is made, flavor, how to present a menu. But then if you can start to get the why behind the what, why are wines from the Jonkershoek in Stellenbosch different from wines from the Helderberg in Stellenbosch, even though they're in the same overall region? starting to go down that rabbit hole, and it actually, a lot of it comes down to people and place.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I find that when I kind of first started, it's just uncovering those stories for guests was way more valuable than just telling them how the wine tasted.
So true. I mean, yeah, look, it's really the wine, the words, like it's that's super important, by the way, and that's the base. And many people really think that. Of course, I know for a fact that it's very difficult to be an entrepreneur, but then you cannot really just wait to start with 1 million because you might as well just die without even actually having 1 million in your account or in your hand. So most businesses, if not many, they started really from scratch, and they started like some from the garage. You know what I mean? Like I started from the garden. This business was actually built on money which was saved through gardening.
Mm-hmm.
I know most people won't believe it, but then this is the reality. You know what I mean? So starting from the rock bottom, if you know what you want, you know what you want and where you want to go and why you're doing it, you actually achieve your goal. And you don't really have to. You don't have to achieve your goal tomorrow. Really, like I mean, easy come, easy go. And most of the things which you want to have them yield results tomorrow, they've got short legs. So you're going to have to actually walk the long walk for you to see the results. Because nowadays people are selling relationships. Now, what's a relationship? A relationship is the wine. The story which you're telling or the story which you're mentioning or selling to this person, now the person or the client is going to buy that story through the wine. And the person is going to take that story somewhere else. You know, so it's a chain. So you're going to have to make sure that you're selling the story right. And you also, wine is there to support the story, I must say. Really, like if the story is really good, you're gonna like the wine in any case.
Yeah,
I'll just buy it purely because I have to support this person for the person to do better, to help the communities, or do something better to help his or her family. You know what I mean? Like I said earlier on, there's no bad wine. So yeah, people, we now everything's becoming very personal. We're selling relationships, we're selling stories. Like I said, there's always a relationship to either protect or to form behind every transaction, bottle transaction, that is. So that if the wine becomes so good, if the beverage becomes so good, whether it's beer or wine or whiskey, it will cement that relationship which might have actually made. So yeah, so it's really, it is what it is. We're moving with the time. That's literally the dynamics of this whole industry now. This is how it's transforming to be.
Yeah,
and we're gonna have to go with the flow, really.
So you see it as just being really going deeper down that relationship building path. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, I see it really going there because I mean I dine quite a bit and I drink quite a lot. I'm not shy about that, and I'm tending to see that most of the bottles which I have, I might have been given or gifted. Some of them I just bought them purely because I've been to say a couple of wine tasting rooms. I still test wines, other people's wines. I was still in Sikibila recently. I was at Capsit recently. I went to Turin. I went to Mahalia. You know, so when I go there, some of the wines I know them really. Turin's been there for some decades, right? And we've been drinking their wines for many years. But then vintages happens to give us completely different wine every year. You know, we just happen to bottle or make wine based on what Mother Nature gives us. So that's why I tend to really go out there and taste some wines, and I just don't drink my wines. And I believe what Ibn Said once told me. He said, never ever trust to drink your own wine, even after every week or after every month, because you think that you're the best winemaker in the world, and you actually go wrong. So I don't really drink my own wines unless if there's a guest and I open the bottle of wine, then I'll take a sip or something like that. So that's the reason why I go out there to also hear if there's any new things which are being implemented in the wine cellar, any vertical techniques which are they actually implementing because of climate change. And I work with most of these wines when I go into Africa, like East Africa, with other influence.
Yes.
So I'm going to have to know what Nsike is doing. I have to know what hair is doing. You know what I mean? All these things, like Oldenburg, all these things, I need to know what they're doing so that I can actually like share that knowledge or that information with the other guys so they can keep on spreading the good stories.
Yeah. Brilliant, Joseph. I mean, I think where it gets kind of challenging and maybe a bit confusing for some learners and team members out in Africa is often that like knowledge that you start to get. So, through the Wine 101, through the masterclasses, through the Wine Advisor course, coming down to Cape Town, meeting the winemakers, getting a sense of it. I think I'd love to just sort of dig into some like top tips of how do you convey these things to guests? Because sometimes you can give way too much information and you can see people switching off.
True.
Other times it's maybe rushed and a bit too quick. I always felt that like the aperitif is a great way to build trust and to, have one or two suggestions, a beautiful, Okavango gin and tonic or 333 gin and tonic.
Yes.
We've got lovely local beers, a refreshing Sauvignon Blanc. We've got a beautiful bubbly on offer. And then that kind of gives guests a feeling of like, okay, I'm safe. I've got a few suggestions. But how did you build trust and how did you share stories with guests where it really is an elevator pitch? You've got 15 to 30 seconds.
Well, so it's all about service, right? So for me, service starts from the gate. If it's a gated establishment, then the door, the reception which you get by the door or at the door is also very vital because that can easily ruin someone's dinner or lunch. Then you, as a sommelier or waiter, wine steward, is the very first possibly person to go to the table. Now that's a different subject altogether. Now these people are relaxed, they are seated, they are quite excited to see how the day is going to actually unfold. They're waiting for the food, and the anticipation is just like everything's just hard.
You can feel that at the beginning of service. Yeah.
They have butterflies possibly in their tummy. So the first line really is to introduce yourself with a smile.
Yeah.
Then you're gonna have to ask if you can offer your guest aperitifs or something to start off with, whether for a day or evening. So by so doing, you're trying to make them really feel comfortable, ready to talk to you, opening a conversation. So selling and all these things are all about conversations, really. So if you really want to live in your cocoon and say be grumpy, the day is going to be very long.
Yeah.
So your name and what you do, definitely, and kindly ask if they want to start with spirit, aperitif, glass of bubbly.
Beautiful. Simple.
Yeah, easy. It's as easy as that. And water, of course, still sparkling water, spirit, aperitif, glass of bubbly. We have fantastic MCC or just now Cape Classic from, say, Silverthorn. You know what I mean? The Graham Bag, all these things. And you just mention one or two things about that.
So that's just to get things underway.
Underway, exactly. It doesn't have to be. It just doesn't have to be long. So when you're pouring that aperitif, we say it's Graham Bag bubbly. Then we say, oh, by the way, this is the wine which was actually used by Barack Obama during his inauguration.
So that's a really good point, Joseph. Yeah. I think a lot of times what I've seen in service is everyone front ends communication and they don't necessarily think of like a book end, so front end is like suggestions, doing your thing, like a few options, but the book end is to say, as you're pouring it, oh, by the way.
There we go. Exactly.
That's beautiful.
I don't play golf. I've never played golf, but I played putt-putt with you something. So, I took some notes that when you hit that ball, you're going to have to do what they call follow through. Your body has to follow the ball with that whole, I don't know, you call it a stick or what?
Yeah, golf club.
Club. So, hitting the ball is your introduction and offering the aperitif. Now, the follow through is when now you're telling the story. When you're pouring that bubbly. So if you don't follow through, your ball might go either way. I don't know, maybe taken by the wind or something like that. So it's kind of like really giving the direction to where exactly you want the ball to go, So now by trying to now tell a story while you're pouring that aperitif or bubbly, you really want to unearth the attitude of the person, like how are they going to actually like the entire experience, you know what I mean? Now the conversation will start. Oh, but the guest can say, "Oh, is it? We didn't know that." Now we're engaging. You need that engagement. Yeah,
and that I think that engagement is key because again, it's great service. You put your ego aside because you're trying to gauge the guests. So if they're having a chat and they're really into this mode, you're not going to tell them a long story about the wine. You might even just do phantom service and pour it. But if there's like looking up and that's really interesting, and where are you from? Do you enjoy wine? We've got a beautiful drinks menu. Maybe I could return just before your starters, if we could start to chat about some wines to pair for your meal. What wines do you enjoy? So that's also question time.
Indeed. It's quite important or very essential to read your guests. It's a skill. It's not something which you can be taught. You're gonna have to just
practice, develop
that skill. Practice, actually, yes. Because you can't just start telling a story when they're busy, like engaging or like talking. You know what I mean? Maybe it's a couple. It's their first date. Excuse me. Or it's their first Valentine's dinner. So you can't just go there and start and really want to disturb them. I mean, you're gonna have to read your guest, slide in your story when you see it fit. And if you see that they're engaging, they're quite really intrigued to see what's you pouring. I want to know. That's when you can actually explain or tell them. But just make it short and precise all the time. I don't want to have someone telling me the whole story of how we became to be a sommelier, the whole journey from Chirumanzu and all that stuff. I mean, that's it's good, but then it's not the right time to say stuff like that. Short and precise.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that's where proper preparation prevents poor performance.
Yeah.
So our job is to try and distill information into the most relevant points.
Yeah.
So every wine farm that we think of, we have to think of ways to distill. The Turin, the tower, the beautiful gravity-fed system where they raise up their wines and there's no pumps. It all falls naturally, softly, gently. Paul Kluwer, family-owned, conservation. They invest in their communities. Anthony Rupert, part of an international luxury brand group, but rooted here. Mossy Wines, Zimbabwe-born, South African inspired wines of terroir, wines that have struggled and flourished, just like Joseph has. I think that's the key thing, is to try and find the little stories that you can share, but it takes work. You can't just be, it's a Chenin Blanc, it's rich and fruity, enjoy.
No, surely, yeah. It really takes a lot of work, effort, more hours really you have to be put in. I mean, like any other journey really, which starts with which begins with a few steps, you're gonna have to put more hours really. Like you're gonna have to, like in this industry, you can never say stuff which you don't know.
Yeah.
Because you don't know who you're actually telling. I've been to many or different establishments where, it just reminded me of this establishment where I went, and they gave me, I think I was with my son and my little brother. So I ordered Chenin Blanc, and they didn't know who I was here in Cape Town a while ago, before COVID, I think. So I went there, asked for a glass of Chenin Blanc. So, sometimes barmen, they like cutting corners. Some waiters too. I mean, possibly I was one of them. So when they're under pressure, they tend to just pick the closest bottle, which is open, and pour in a carafe or in a glass and just leave. So I remember they poured Sauvignon Blanc, and I'd ordered Cedar Big Chenin Blanc and hooded. So when I tasted the wine, like I smelled the wine first, then I tasted the wine. It didn't talk to me. The wine, I want to have a conversation with my glass, like the wine. You know what I mean? There should be a conversation between yourself and the wine. Because wine is a language on its own. So I'm picking all these, like throwing some typical Sauvignon Blanc aromas and flavors, and I'm like, no man, let me just ask my waiter. And that's like, did you serve me Sauvignon Blanc when I ordered Chenin Blanc? So no, that's Chenin Blanc. I said, okay, cool. which Chenin Blanc did you pour again? I was like, okay, let me go to the bar and check. Remember this guy, I ordered with him. So even if I'm serving 40 people, during my time at Laclon, possibly I was young, I could know who is having what. You know what I mean? He didn't have to go back to the bar and ask what is that guy having, because he is my point of contact in this restaurant. You know what I mean? And we're talking directly, and 10 minutes did not pass. So he should have actually had that in his mind. Anyway, so he went back, then he came back, then was like, okay, it's actually Chenin Blanc from Cedar. Okay, cool. Please bring a new bottle. I'll pay for it. Just bring a new bottle, then, but don't take my glass. Bring a new glass. Brought a fresh bottle, a new glass, poured. The difference was day and night.
Yeah.
I even said, please, do you want to try? If you really want to try, you can try, or call your manager. So he thought that I was really like trying to make a story. And I also got to think that it was the barman's problem, not the waiter's problem. So when I called the manager tasted the wines, was like, it's not the same wine. I said, okay, ask your waiter, because the waiter saying it's the same wine. You know, so
Yeah, don't try and fool.
don't fool people, because you don't know who you're talking to. You know what I mean? So guests are all VIPs, in my eyes, you know. So whether someone just came to drink one or come to drink one glass, someone's going to have, say, Columella, someone's going to have Filafonte, whatever it is, they're all, the moment they sit down, they are quite superior than you, and also they are now your guest, you are the host. Give them what they deserve. You know, if you don't know, brother, there's nothing wrong by saying, let me dig more information for you, I'll be back, than lying.
Couldn't agree more.
See, now I can't forget about this experience, because this guy gave me something wrong, because wrong things really, like wrong news is, you may not travel so fast. And sometimes if you do something good to me, I can forget it tomorrow.
Well, if he'd come and said, I think this might have been the wrong glass,
Yeah.
let me bring you a fresh glass
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
you know, something to say sorry, easy. It's actually a great service recovery opportunity.
Exactly. So, like for me, it's more of the way you're going to recover all that mess than to try and prove a point that I think I'm better because you're a guest. You know what I mean? Maybe you don't even know your wine, maybe from Somm or Joburg, wherever. Maybe you don't know Kenya, Malawi, maybe you don't know your wines. So people now, they've got really developed palates. They know what they're drinking, and they know what to expect in any wine, on every wine. So yeah, it's a matter of like really telling the truth, say what you know, and try to do like very good damage control. Yeah, within a short period of time.
Yeah, and then I think that preparation, you know, knowing varietals, knowing regions, those are very important concepts, you know, like know the Elgin, cooler climates,
Yes.
know the Swartland, the story about the soils, the warmer climates. But then try and make one or two notes per winery just about things that interest you. You know, you can go onto a website and you can look at Hartenberg. I just went on the website the other day because I was doing a little tasting for guests, and they've just won a sustainability award. You know, and that's a story.
Exactly.
You know, and then there's, you know, her wines and Tracy Dlamini and her incredible story to get to where she is. So it doesn't always need to be about Syrah from the Swartland. It can be the stories around that. But again, if you have a little notebook where you make tasting notes, have the same notebook where you also make little notes about the people and the place.
Of course.
I find that really powerful.
Indeed.
So we've taken a journey, aperitif. You've maybe made a suggestion for the meal. How would you kind of continue this interaction with guests in your experience? Because often you would be doing like a tasting menu and there'd be so many different wines. What were some of your top tips if you have even just a 3-course meal that's going out? Timing is key, hey?
Timing is key.
Because if you make the suggestion at
true.
the wrong time.
Yeah, timing is key. And rule number 1 is never remove bread on a French table. Like if the French are having dinner, lunch, don't remove the bread. Keep it, leave it there, because they want their bread. Anyway, so now most of the important tips there is to just make sure that glasses there's no point really where you actually want to see an empty glass on a table. So never actually allow guest glass to run dry, no matter what. The moment they have the last sipping down, you there.
Yeah. Even just before.
Water, wine, whatever it is, beer, whatever it is, just be there and top up. And when you're topping up, please just ask. Sometimes some guests would want to have like that last sip and eat first before having more water. So it's always also good to ask in a way that if it's really, I don't want to drink warm sparkling water because I drink sparkling water. So if you now pour in my glass purely because you didn't ask, now I'm going to have to have it, the warm meal or the entire meal, go back to my warm sparkling water, which is really unpleasant to drink. So please ask, may I please top up your water or may I top up your wine, stuff like that. And may is the term to use in a restaurant or in any form.
No
You can't
cans
say,
allowed.
you cannot say can or folks or whatever it is. No.
So may I top you up, or should we look at another wine for your
Yeah.
next course?
Exactly.
Okay.
So those things are very, very important now because you keep the conversation going. Barely 2 to 3 minutes after they tuck into their dishes, you're going to have to go and ask if they are enjoying. How are you enjoying your meal? Not, are you enjoying your food? Are you enjoying your meal? I mean, come on. You're going to have to find like really the clinical ways which are being used. I mean,
What's the old? Is everything okay?
yeah, is everything okay? Sharp, guys? You know what I mean? So, and we get these things every day, really. Like we go out there, people just say, sharp, everything okay? And someone is standing 2 meters away from me and thumbs up. I don't know you. And they give me thumbs up. Like, you know, we're not friends even. But, yeah, it's very important to top up guest glasses, ask if they want to be topped up. And 2-3 minutes down the line after having their first dig, ask if they're enjoying their meal. Whether you're a sommelier, waiter, or whatever it is, just go to the table and ask. And also that to give you kind of like a guideline, because some guests would want to have like more sauce, more salt, because nowadays restaurants are not putting salt on the tables, you know, so may want to have like more salt or fresh chili, you know, all these other things, or more roasted vegetables, whatever it is. So that to actually give you that room to have them to tell you if they want more of something. You know, if everything's okay, then you leave the table. And don't regularly visit the table when the guests are eating. After asking if they're enjoying the meal, you just desert the table. You leave and let them enjoy. Then when the food is done, or when all really, like with the cutlet is like set, or when you see that, well, some don't really follow the rules of the cutlet being together, some can just leave it as is. But then still, before you clean or clear the table, you're going to have to ask, I mean, how did you enjoy your food? Oh, it was lovely. You know, that's how you made it. May I please clean your table? Then you can actually clean your table, starting by a lady, if there's a lady at the table. If they're all ladies, then you just go any way. If they're all gents, just go anyway. But then I had a question when someone asked me, I think it was in Kenya. Someone asked me, what if President, say, Ruto, come with his missus and they're having lunch? Should I serve the president first before the wife? Said, no. He's the president of the country, but under your roof, the queen is like they all respect. Like you can have respect the wife first before him.
I think it's a good question, because I think the president did visit the lodge.
Yeah, you're true. I mean, so many people really find it very difficult to separate that. I mean, it doesn't matter, really. King, queen, president, whoever it is. I mean, you're gonna have to make sure that the lady is actually served first before. Unless if she insists, but still, like hospitality rules, female first before male. It is what it is.
I agree, Joseph. And I think going to that point you made about the follow through, one thing that really frustrates me in restaurants sometimes is it feels like everything starts off with energy and passion and, you know, aperitif, starter, main courses, and then slowly dessert, tea or coffee, and then the bill. And I think one of the great opportunities in hospitality is to really like bring that closure to like a crescendo. You know, it's like an opera. So what were some of your kind of top tips for the dessert and the tea, coffee, digestif components of the meal? It was a really successful component of La Colombe, I remember.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously after you have cleared the tables, or the waiter cleared the tables, so you as a sommelier are going to have to firstly check with the waiter if they had ordered their desserts. If they've actually ordered the desserts, then you go and like find like very good wine to complement that, or whatever it is, or beverage to complement that dessert. You then go back to the table and say, I spoke to Amelia and she showed me what you've ordered as your desserts. Would you is it okay, or may I suggest a couple of dessert wines,
Beautiful.
or
Ports, or whatever it might be.
any, or some beverage to go with your dessert wine? I mean, then if they keen to have, some people like sweet wine, some don't. If they then keen to have you to suggest the beverages, I mean, then you go, I mean, with your chocolate fondant. I mean, we do have this Vin de Constance, South Africa's possibly one of, or arguably the best dessert wine. It was pitted amongst the top 10 dessert wines in the world, including Chateau d'Y came from France, so 10 region, and it performed very well. You know, and their best vintages is 07, 13, 15, stuff like that. And we do have actually 13 today, and it's by the glass. You don't really have to take the whole bottle. So you may be able to possibly have 2 glasses, or if you want to share a glass, you're more than welcome to share a glass. You know what I mean? So don't force them to order a bottle, because I know sometimes on the floor people are quite much what you call carried away when it comes to tips. Big bills, of course, we know that it's going to be tipped very well. And then when it comes to game lodges, of course, most of the stuff is included in there. So it's also good to upsell. There's nothing wrong with that. Upselling is great. You're gonna still get your tip in any case, you know. So by doing so without actually forcing them, they feel very much comfortable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you mentioned,
It's a suggestion.
It's a suggestion, by the way. You didn't say have this. So if they don't want that, they can actually have something else. And in that same sentence, you can easily sell your teas, your coffees. I mean, we do have Kenyan tea, Kenyan tea. Yes, Kenya is good with teas. Kenyan tea and Ethiopian coffee, which we have here, and some other things which have. Other than that, we can actually do avocado. We do have also some
Single
digestives.
malts,
Yes,
yeah.
single malts, stuff like
Beautiful. We were talking. It's not here at the moment, but Ken Forrester left behind like FMC grappa.
that. See,
You know,
yeah.
relevant local
Spirit of
fun.
ask.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I kind of beat my drum about is we're very lucky on the African continent to have a fairly unique environment for digestives, where we can invite guests around the fire.
Of course.
I mean, you couldn't build a fire in the middle of the restaurant at La Colombe. I think it's illegal to build a fire in New York probably these days.
Of course.
And then not just the fire, but you can put your feet in the sand on the beaches of Zanzibar or Seychelles or the Kenyan coast and really like close off a meal. And I remember at La Colombe, you didn't you guys have some different dining locations that you used? Didn't you move guests?
Yeah, that was Enchanted Garden.
Yes.
We used to like halfway through your menu, you could actually take the guests into a journey whereby they get into the Enchanted Garden. Then they could actually, there was a Mad Hatter in there. We could hear frogs, crickets and all that stuff, birds singing and like water
Yeah.
flowing. Then you could actually have one meal inside there. So those are the simple things which can actually add value to the guest experience.
Yeah,
And,
I mean, it's like that's the crazy thing, right?
Yeah.
You're doing something where one of the top restaurants in the world, where you drove the drinks program, they create a space where you sort of going from a restaurant environment into nature, back into, and that's literally what most outlets have on the African continent without. So like if you're in a lodge and you're just sitting and having dinner in a restaurant, you're almost wasting the space, because you can have an aperitif by the fire. You can even go to the fire to get something served off the fire or out of a potjie pot. It's a really, really cool point, that to create moments of moving guests around, not in a discomforting way. It's another kind of fun experience that we tried to create and successfully created at a outlet like the Victoria Falls Hotel, which you've been to many times. Livingston Room, have an aperitif in that courtyard, have dinner, and then retire to the drawing room for a whiskey and cigar. I mean, what a cool experience!
Such a blessing. I mean, I just don't think we really value and know what we have. We as Africans, we don't know what we have. We're sitting on top of gold or diamond, whatever you may call it, but then we don't happen to utilize it properly. It's not really a privilege; it's a blessing. You know, we really. Why did we think of actually having that enchanted garden in a restaurant? Because an African person won't see it exciting because we see it every day. I hear those frogs croaking every single day when it's raining. You know what I mean? The crickets, you walk in the evening, it's Serengeti, Segera, whatever, Mara plains, you hear the crickets. You know what I mean? But then go to New York, maybe they don't have even the crickets. They don't have the frogs. You know, or they have different types of or species of those animals. So I think that we need to utilize as much as possible the little things which we have. People really fly to actually go on top of Table Mountain. You see, stuff like that. They fly to go to Victoria Falls to see the mighty Victoria Falls, really. So, and we take it for granted. We don't even value it. Like, just living in Cape Town, it's such a blessing.
It really is.
You know, and we don't take it that way. You start appreciating nature.
We looked outwards too much. You know, when we at the rest of the world, whereas there's so much wealth of culture, of food, wine, and that's another point that I wanted to make. You know, for everyone out there, don't try and become a Swiss waiter or Swiss sommelier. Share your culture.
Exactly.
Share who you are.
There we go.
Be authentic. I mean, I think that's also been a big part of your success. You know, you've been an advocate for South African wine, but you're also an advocate for Zimbabwe.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's really that's more like human nature, isn't it? I mean, you're gonna have to, if you try to execute your roots in any game, you go far. Because I mean, as Africans, sometimes we tend to want to be a millionaire tomorrow, because we have so many things happening in our continent, or on our continent, I would say. In a way that you buy barefoot, borrow there at R1, you walk 2 meters down the road or down the lane, you want to sell it for $3. You know, this is who we are. You know what I mean? So when you said we tend to really like dig and forage far instead of like looking at what we have in our particular zone, you know, in our silo, we lose a lot by doing that. You know, so start small, be organic and genuine, work hard, and also be humble, which is very important. And connections really work very much. I mean, nowadays, your network is your net worth. If you don't know more people, you can't go anywhere. Some are using even social media platforms to make money. You know, so those people who are following them, that's a network. Because you planted a seed, you planted something, you planted trust in them in a way that they actually trusted you back by just having that click and liking, you know what I mean? So you happen to earn money through that. And it's not even a joke. So yeah, look, you're gonna have to show your true Africanism, be authentic, be proud of it. I mean, don't just do something for the sake of it, or you know, because I'm African, I'm gonna say African story it from people to buy my wine. I mean, they will buy your wine, they'll get bored because there's no longevity. You know what I mean? They want to see you progressing. You can actually win today, but tomorrow you lose. Because I mean, a good storyteller never stop talking, or never stop telling stories or good stories. So yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to be proactive, be creative. Whoever had my first wine in 2014 can really tell today that was such a different. There's a massive difference, and there's growth really after 11 years of nurturing this baby. So, and people are following. There are people who've been buying from the onset, you know.
Yeah.
So they want stuff like that. They want to see progression.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I love that, Joseph. And yeah, I think this has been such a great exploration of storytelling from a hospitality perspective. But I'd love an update on your story with Mossy Wines. How are things going? Like what's happening? What's on the horizon? I know I've seen some incredible accolades and awards. I've seen just today quite a few posts in Kenya and Malawi. It seems like the story is going from strength to strength. I mean, maybe quickly share like how the story started and how it's evolved to now.
Yeah, no, that's so true. I mean, it really, it's so, like, it melts my heart to see my wines being enjoyed, posted like UTI in Kenya, Wine and Wings, is it? I saw
Yeah,
that in Malawi recently. Laithwaites in the UK, see
that's huge.
South in South Carolina, North Carolina, they're about like all like globally. For me, it really, it means a lot, not just to myself but to the entire family, the followers themselves, the entire community. I did not just like thought of, I didn't actually think of doing this for the sake of like really enriching myself. I'm not really making much money with this. Honestly, the business actually now be able to sustain on its own because the money is coming, yes. But I try to make wines which people can actually enjoy. And I know if I can swallow it, the next person can actually do that. If I can't swallow it, then my name has to be off that, because that doesn't actually show who we are. It doesn't show my identity. So yeah, we're still making wine, and we're still making wine, distilling gin. We're selling for a lot of wines now in Africa, but my main focus now is more to sell in Africa than any other continent, because I believe that we do have great economy in Africa, in a way that if we educate our African brothers and sisters to an extent of them drinking wine for enjoyment and understanding or knowing what they're drinking rather than drinking to get drunk, we can reach far.
100%.
It's really cheaper to ship or export wine to Zimbabwe, Zambia, Botswana, Malawi, and so forth than to take the wines to New York.
Yeah,
And take
especially
the wines
these
to
days.
London. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the condition of the wine changes really being on that ship and all that stuff. I know there are cooling system and all that stuff which is happening, but then time-wise, getting the wine from Cape Town to Namibia, maybe 2 days, 3 days, it's there. People are actually enjoying the wine. And if you look at it like carbon footprint and all these things, people are like looking at and sustainability, health-wise and that stuff. Like there's nothing much really happening in a way that it will actually damage the environment. So I think we should start really considering Africa, or put Africa back on the map of first before think of anything else. Because there is money here, a lot of money. I mean, people are drinking champagne every single day. They're popping them Dombrinos, and we see them on social media. Why can't they pop Graham Beck, Silverthorne, Klein Kosanja Bubbly, Steenbeck, and so forth? You know what I mean? So same as still wines. People are drinking Montrose, they're drinking Lafitte, Margaux. You cannot believe it. There are so many Latage, DRC wines in Africa which are being consumed possibly every day. But we have equally equivalent wine in terms of quality, and for less actually. So I'll continue making more wine, of course, and helping the community in need, and putting Africa first.
Yeah, and let's keep sharing stories. Like it's a platform which we really like so lucky to have, where it's not just now guest by guest, but it's engaging with waiters, it's engaging with distributors,
Correct.
sharing the story, building education on the continent. There's a big push now towards alcohol not being good for your health, which we know excess is not.
Yeah.
But what are the benefits of sitting together as a family or as a group of friends, sharing a fantastic bottle of wine, sharing stories, enjoying food, enjoying the flavor of wine, enjoying the experience? I mean, the individuals living in the Mediterranean up to 105 years old will tell you that's a very important part of life, and we should continue to invest in that. But I love what you're saying. It's about educating the market. Drinking a cheap pupsuck or something. It's about getting out of that and into experiencing something with quality, with a story to tell, and enjoying it responsibly with friends and family.
Absolutely. It's therapeutic, isn't it? I mean, just sitting down with your family, friends, sharing stories and ideas, you possibly learn more or a lot, because like I always believe that a day spent without learning something new is a day wasted. Now, how are you going to learn something if you are just closed in your corner or in your cocoon without actually sharing or going out there to meet with your friends? Africa is pregnant. It's full of so many untold stories, and it just happened that I'm blessed. I always want to use blessed and privileged. I'm blessed in the sense that my story happens to be on the public platform, whereby anyone can actually read about it. Anyone can see it through the documentary. But believe me, there are so many better stories out there, good stories, but then they don't have someone who's going to channel them to give them head or told. So if there are writers out there, go out there, go in the communities, go to the rural areas. It's rich. Africa is so rich and very diverse. Go and unearth those stories and actually put them on a public platform so that we can actually read about that. Someone can write a book about it. A movie can actually be constructed, around that. Someone can make wine. I remember having wine called...
in Kenya?
No, here. With the jail guy, the guy who was in jail, and the bandit or something, I can't remember. There's a term for a prisoner in Afrikaans. What is that? There's wine, someone with tattoos and all that stuff. And apparently there's a story behind that, and some of the proceeds actually goes to people who have been abusing alcohol, people who have been in jail and stuff. Now, those stories, they need to be out there. They need to be told. If you don't really happen to have that wine, you won't know.
Yeah, and I think it's a good lesson also for the wine farms, because a lot of their websites, it's about the what, what clone, what does it taste like, what food. But then you find out stories where, a farm I know sponsors an agricultural college for young people, and there's a whole incredible story of it's only female focused agricultural college in Africa. And that story should be told.
Exactly.
So we all need to really double down on that storytelling, help others to share the stories in turn. So you create that storytelling culture in Africa where it's word of mouth, passed along.
True.
And Joseph, I just want to thank you, and I'm so grateful. You've been such a mentor to me and to so many others in Africa, and continue to be so, and such an inspiration. Looking forward to sharing a glass of wine with you. We've both got to drive, so we didn't open anything
today. Wow.
But thank you so much for being here and for everything that you do.
Oh, the pleasure's mine, man. We need to really keep on inspiring each other. This is a journey. Like I said, there are so many stops, but then never lose hope and never ever think that you reached your destination. It's a journey which we all traveling. So let's keep on sharing stories. Let's keep on sharing the little we have, even wine, food, whatever it is. A lot is really going up, it's going on in this world. People are in different species, different moods and other stuff. So by just calling someone to check on the person, maybe you would save a life, because a lot is really happening. People are going through a lot of stuff. So never forget to say hi to your mates. Never forget to share a glass with your friends, family, and stuff like that. And if you have something which is eating you, just say it out. Without being emotional, just say it out openly. Don't wait to have that one glass of whiskey for you to say something. Otherwise, you end up making wrong turns. So let's keep the conversation going.
Thank you, Joseph.
Oh, you're welcome, man.
Rock and roll.
Thanks, man.